Look, as you well know, it was a historic day on Capitol Hill. The January 6th committee referring former President Trump to the Justice Department on 4 criminal charges: 4, obstructing an official proceeding, conspiring to defraud the United States, conspiring to make false, conspiracy, I should say, to make false statements, assisting or aiding an insurrection. This is the first time that Congress has referred a former president for criminal prosecution. So let's discuss all of this. Joining me now, Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff, a Californian and a member of the House Select Committee investigating January 6th. Congressman, we appreciate you joining us today. Thank you so much. Why was it important for those criminal referrals? Because Republicans are framing this as legally not binding and saying that it's only ceremonial, basically downplaying the work of the committee.
Well, Republicans have been downplaying the work of the committee since it began, but happily, the American people have been watching. And it was important in a number of respects. It was important because this was an attack on the Congress as well as on our democracy. Normally, the Congress would refer potential crimes of failing to appear before Congress after being subpoenaed or lying to Congress. Here, this was an attack on the Congress, and we had a duty, I think, to set out the evidence that we had gathered about the threat to our democracy, how we are not out of the woods yet, and what we need to do to protect ourselves going forward. But also, it was important, I think, as a matter of accountability for the Justice Department. The American people now understand that in the view of our committee, the former president committed serious crimes that the Justice Department needs to investigate. And that I think will hopefully hold the Justice Department to the standard it set out at the beginning of the investigation, that it would follow the evidence wherever it leads. It would have only one standard of the rule of law. It would apply it equally whether you were a former president or an ordinary citizen. So it's an important element of accountability.
Can I ask you, Congressman, why did the committee not recommend a seditious conspiracy charge?
We indicated that the Justice Department, with the evidence it has, which may be additional to what we have gathered, should consider seditious conspiracy. But we went through other offenses that we felt the evidence in our possession made all of the links in terms of causation, in terms of the elements of each part of the offense. So we put the strongest evidence and the strongest criminal offenses forward first. But we recognize there are other offenses the Justice Department needs to consider, including that one. This is not meant to be an exhaustive list by any means. And indeed, we also point out that there are other individuals that may have come to the Justice Department's attention and ours, where we didn't want to itemize necessarily what the evidence was as to individuals.
So you're saying it wasn't meant to be an exhaustive list. So this is, I'm wondering then if you think that these are your 4 the best evidence to support these 4 charges. And let me just read them off again: obstructing an official proceeding, defrauding the United States, making false statements, assisting or aiding an insurrection. Do you think that is the best, and that's why those were put out there? And of those 4, do you think that any are better than the others?
Yes, we identified these 4 because we, in looking at the evidence in our possession, thought that there was sufficient evidence as to each element of each of those crimes, and that they were serious enough that we wanted to refer the matter to the Justice Department. But we want to be sure that people understand that there are other offenses too. This is not meant to be exhaustive. In terms of, which are the strongest of those referrals, there are, and I say this as a former prosecutor, there are times when the most serious offense is not necessarily the easiest offense to prove. And so we wanted to list all 4 of these. It may be the Justice Department determines that, okay, the evidence is strongest as to this statute or that statute. I think the most serious of the crimes we allege is the crime of insurrection itself. And there I think the evidence is abundant that the president assembled this mob, that after all else failed, and he's told that this people in the crowd won't go through metal detectors because they're armed, he nonetheless sends this armed and dangerous mob to the Capitol. And while they're attacking police officers, interfering in the joint session, he watches from the comfort of the White House dining room and refuses to lift a finger to do anything to stop it, and then tells the country how much he loves these people and is even now talking about pardons if he gets the chance.
Congressman, One person your committee didn't speak to was Vice President Pence. He was weighing in on what he thinks the Justice Department should do. This is what he said.
I would hope that they would not bring charges against the former president. I don't, look, as I wrote in my book, I think the president's actions and words on January 6th were reckless. But I don't know that it's criminal to take bad advice from lawyers. I hope the Justice Department understands the magnitude of the very idea of indicting a former president of the United States. I think that would be terribly divisive in the country.
Obviously, it was not just bad advice from lawyers, but I wonder if Pence had come before you, what would you have asked him?
Well, first of all, I think you have to view everything Mike Pence says through the prism of what he thinks best positions him to run for president. And that's, I think, a really disappointing cop-out that you just played. It wasn't, as you say, just a matter of getting bad advice from lawyers. He was getting good advice from his own top Justice Department people, that there was no basis to these fraud claims. And what was his answer? Well, just say the election was corrupt and leave the rest to me and the Republican congressmen. That is, he told his own Justice Department to lie about it, and he would take it from there. So in terms of what we would have liked to have heard from the vice president, he was on the phone in meetings with the president talking about the joint session. The vice president understood he had no constitutional authority to simply disregard legitimate electors and instead declare somehow Donald Trump the winner. Those conversations were really important for the American people to know. And I think that, again, the vice president did a grave disservice with his refusal to testify, because he certainly could have decided to testify. It's another matter about whether we could have forced him, but there was nothing prohibiting him, as other presidents, indeed, have come before Congress after their terms were over.
We'll see if he speaks to the Justice Department. Congressman Adam Schiff, though, thank you for joining us this morning to break down the findings of your committee from yesterday.
Thank you, Congressman. Happy holidays to you.
Thank you.